This is the Stockwell Roueche Show, giving you real-time information you need to make educated decisions about buying and selling in the world-renowned Twin Cities. Now your hosts and real estate experts, Jason Stockwell and Josh Roueche.
Good morning, Minneapolis and St. Paul.
Good morning.
You're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show here on AM 1280 The Patriot every Sunday at 10 a.m. We have a wonderful guest today. We're very excited about the show and a great topic. The guest today is Lisa Swanson with Envoy Mortgage, 12 years in the business, and we're happy to have her here. Welcome, Lisa.
Thanks. Great to be here.
Our topic today is how to maximize rents and buy rental properties. That's this week. Next week, we'll actually be talking about how to flip a home and make $40,000. And the following week, a great show coming up with hopefully some politicians on here will be, do the elections really affect your real estate portfolio? Election season is up, so that'll be a great show 2 weeks from today. Lisa, welcome. 12 years in the business.
Yep.
And Envoy Mortgage, and we're happy to have you. Can you share a little bit about yourself and your company?
Yeah, sure. Well, as you mentioned, I've been in the business for 12 years, so I've seen a little bit of everything. I've seen a lot of changes in the industry, rules and regulations.
Rules and regulations, really?
Yeah, right?
Government has really stepped in. Yes.
Yeah, but my goal is always just to be the expert of it, to help the home buyers or folks that are looking to refinance to have a smooth transaction and make the process simple and try and alleviate a lot of the stress that you've maybe heard or people have experienced in the past.
Cool. Well, good. Well, we're going to dive into a lot of stuff with Lisa. Right now, we're going to do a quick market update for you on the real estate market this week or this month and change over last year, and then also some mortgage information that is very good news for everybody for all of you that are looking to get a mortgage.
Yeah, that I'm looking at the new listings right now on the market in the Twin City Metro, and I'm based off last year. We were up 16.4%. That was up to date to August. Right now, we're seeing about a 0.1% increase. So we're right there. We're about the same as where we were last year. Year to date, we're at 53,000 new listings that have hit the market. That was 2013, and now we're at 54,994. So we're seeing it's pretty much been a stable market. We're back about where we were last year.
I'm hearing a lot of agents in the office complaining about the market. It's slow. What's going on? What's happening? They said quick facts here. It says from last change in closed sales year over year is down 7.3%. Sale price is up 5.3%, and inventory is up 8.9%.
And that's a great stat right there, that 8.7%. And
change in inventory up. Yep. So there's more on the market. Buyers are selective. They shouldn't be, is what we're hearing from guys like Warren Buffett. Here's a quote from him yesterday. He said, quote, "You would think that people would be lining up now to get mortgages and buy a home. Household formation falls off dramatically in a recession, at least initially, but that doesn't last long. Hormones kick in and in-laws get tiresome too," end quote. So
Hormones.
People are getting sick of staying at their parents. They want to move on, form households, and buy houses, and they should be lining up to get mortgages. Now, rates hit a 16-month low yesterday, 16-month low. So that's great news for the market, and people should be out there getting mortgages. I've seen some activity in my office pick up even yesterday. I talked to a colleague, and they had 4 purchase agreements accepted from
awesome.
Buyers because they locked in at a great
awesome.
rate. So
That's
Perfect.
awesome.
Lisa, what are your thoughts on that? Are you seeing some increased activity, or what have you seen in your office with the mortgage activity and purchase activity?
Well, the rates obviously help with folks can just buy more home for less money. And so when rates hit an all-time low like they are right now, it's a perfect time to lock in, make some decisions. If you're on the fence, you've been house shopping for a while, when rates, hit an all-time low or 16th-month low, it's a perfect time just to pull the trigger and make a decision on, finding a property, because you're going to pay a lot less in the long run by locking in a low rate.
Now, with the weather changing and the changes in the climate, what do you guys see on the mortgage side when we start getting into our winter months? Is that affecting you guys a lot like it does us? Are you seeing, how does that from year to year, how does that affect the mortgage market?
Well, I'd say it's pretty similar to the real estate market. We go hand in hand with one another. And so winter, things are a little bit slower because folks are buying a lot less at the time. But as rates go down or when we see a low like we are right now, there also is a great opportunity for people to refinance. And if they are at a higher interest rate or they want to shorten their term and pay less interest over the life of the loan, a 16th month low is really a great opportunity. And it's not necessarily seasonal reflective.
Right.
Well, I have a question for you, Lisa, here. Thanks for sharing that good information. The question I have is, we've been hearing this for a long time, and it's like a scare. I don't know if they're trying to induce buyers to buy by lowering the rates and then saying, oh, they could go up or they will go up in the next 6 months. Oh, wait, the next year. Oh, wait, the next 2 years. So the final point to consider is what I'm reading here is the final point to consider is the likelihood of rising rates over the next year. If you average the rate predictions, all predictions from Fannie, Freddie, NAR, and MBA, for this time next year, it comes out to 4.95. No one wants to say 5 anymore.
Yeah,
No,
right.
they're scared too. Right.
A 9-9.
So, do you see that is coming imminently? Is it or is it not? Because I've been hearing it for a long time.
I've been hearing it for a long time too. It was supposed to happen before the summer even hit.
Yeah, if we had a crystal ball in the mortgage industry or anything financial, I think, that'd be a jackpot. But we really don't. The indicators of rates, we used to use certain indicators to kind of figure out
The mortgage bond.
what the patterns are going to be. With the way the market works now, it's really, really challenging to kind of pinpoint it. So what I always advise my clients is when you find a house you like, if you're comfortable with the payment, lock it down. Then you don't have to worry about it, and you can move on with your life. So I think that's key, as opposed to worrying about the rates. Get pre-qualified, feel comfortable with your payment, and then find the house of your dreams. And so,
what is it when you say pre-qualified? What is that process for the listeners out there? What does that consist of?
Well, it consists of meeting or chatting with a loan officer, officially applying online or via telephone conversation. And we do a review of credit score. We do a review of income. We do a review of assets. And, basically those 3 components have to meet our minimum criteria. And at that point, once the buyer has met those, we'll issue a pre-qualification letter and they can go and start house shopping right away.
Great. You're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show, Sunday mornings, 10 a.m. on AM 1280 The Patriot. We're here today with Lisa Swanson, and we are going to get into the topic, how to maximize rents and buy rental properties. We've been talking statistics and valuable information so far.
This is your strong suit.
Yeah.
So let's see what you got.
We do have a few rental properties that work with a lot of clients that have rental properties. Lisa, I'm sure you've helped people buy rental properties.
Yeah.
There was a massive demand for rental properties now, and especially this whole year and even last year. Duplexes and fourplexes and multiplexes that weren't doing anything. The rental rates have increased so dramatically in the Twin Cities that the demand to buy those for investors is where they're putting their money, because the foreclosure market is down so much as well, so they have to find a way to do it, and they're buying regular rental properties that are regular owners even, not all foreclosures, is what I'm seeing. So for maximizing rents, when you maximize rents, my opinion is there's 3 ways to do it. I don't know if you guys can agree, disagree, or we can talk about it.
Let's see what Jason's got.
Number 1, the easiest way is to raise the rents, and that's what's been happening across the board.
Oh yes.
You just you pull up MLS, you can pull up some statistics easily and find out what the rents are going for, and you have a lot of data to go to the tenant and raise the rent. And number 2, fix up the property, improve the property, increase the value, I would say. And then number 3 is, this may or may not, this could hurt you, but in my opinion, it's good to have it, is a long-term lease. So raise rents, number 1. Number 2, fix up the property, improve it. Number 3, do a long-term lease, because it saves you that month or 2-month transition, because they will rent right away again, but you got to do a month to 2 month, and you end up spending money on painting, carpeting, and vacancy for those couple of months.
I think number 3 is huge, especially in our market. Who wants to rent in the middle of wintertime? That's why you do have that long lease, so you don't have to worry about that during the wintertime. Wintertime months are horrible for the renting side. you tear up the house moving in and out, snow. It's very difficult to rent a home in the wintertime. So I think that long-term lease is key, especially in our market.
And raising the rents, that's I believe last week we touched on that a little bit with our guest last week. And he said that for a number of years he managed a number of properties, and his job was to raise the rents.
Right.
And it's a fine line. You don't want to lose that person if they've been a great tenant, or people if they've been a great tenant, but you do have to still go in there and go at the market rate of the rent. And there's a number of other things that you could do is have the tenant pay utilities and things like that. That would maximize your rents or your profitability, because it all goes down to the bottom line of the profitability of the rental.
And what you're seeing right now, rents you can almost get a house way cheaper as a monthly payment if you purchase a home versus rent right now, because rents have gone so high in our marketplace right now, where people, I think
I'm surprised that so many people. Sorry to cut you off. I'm surprised so many people are renting versus buying.
Yeah, well, that's because the media has scared people about buying a home. And what we want to do on this show is talk to our client, or not our clients, but our listeners, and let them know what's really available for them in our marketplace right now.
So you could typically rent. Lisa, that's a good question.
That's great.
When you get an application for someone and they're renting, is their rent typically higher than what their mortgage payment is going to be, or is it the same?
It really depends. But, I've seen, like, for a good example is you can buy pretty much a $200,000 home. If you're just looking at a principal and interest payment before your taxes, insurance, that's about $1,000 a month. If you've checked out anything Zillow, I think even on Zillow they have renter advertisements. It's difficult to find a 2-bedroom, I believe, for $1,000 a month. And I'm talking potentially a $200,000 home you can buy, you can own, build a family with, and
There's
that
all
new
kinds
home.
of things you can do with it.
Yeah.
Well, so when we come back, that comes into another thing that I think would be good to talk about, is a culture shift on owning versus renting.
Okay.
And then how maximizing actually the mortgage can affect it. If you get your mortgage can obviously is a factor. So it's actually just not maximizing rent, it's maximizing profitability of the rent. And so we'll talk about that when we get back. You're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show here on AM 1280 The Patriot with our guest Lisa Swanson from Envoy Mortgage. And thanks for listening in. When we come back, we'll be talking more about maximizing your profitability on rentals, buying them, how to buy them, and then the culture shift on renting versus owning. We'll be back soon. Thanks. Welcome back. You're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show, Sundays, 10 a.m. here on The Patriot. Jason Stockwell, Josh Roueche, our guest Lisa Swanson. We had a great talk earlier about the renting versus buying and how to maximize profits if you do own rental property. There's a cultural shift that we've indicated or talked about a little bit earlier about this people being scared to buy property and they're renting. And rental costs are rising rapidly. They're currently the highest ever and still rising, which makes it even less advantageous to rent versus buy, but yet it's still happening. So the question is, why? Why would you choose to rent
versus
buy with the rates where they are, the inventory rising, and everything, and the rental rates rising as they are. We have joining the show with us is Casey.
Casey's great, by the way.
Hey,
Casey Thrash.
Hey, guys.
She is a renter, so we wanted to get her perspective on why someone would choose to rent versus buy, and also it sounds like she might have had someone try to raise the rent on her recently, which they were probably listening to a show that was talking about this.
Somebody was telling her to raise the rent, and then she had to have higher rent.
So why? What's the reason? Is there a cultural shift?
Tell us that story there,
Here's
Casey.
the thing. She already raised my rent. She already did raise my rent. I've been living in a condo as a rental for the past year.
Hang on a sec. Before we talk, you're not going to get kicked out next week for talking about her on the radio, right?
No, Nate.
okay.
No. She's a great
right, good.
landlord. I've known her for like 10 years. She's wonderful. I love living where I'm living. But, I signed my lease. She raised my rent when I had to re-sign my lease. And we had a property inspection yesterday because the city came in and they had to check it out. She had a couple things that needed to be done. And she kind of breached the subject of, okay, well, when your lease is up next time, would you want to buy? Like, would you be interested in buying? And I love where I live. I love my location. I'm close to work. I'm close to lots of amenities. I've got a lot of stuff.
So you like where you're at?
I love where I'm at.
Did you tell her you work for a realtor? That
Well,
you don't need a realtor?
That's how I know her, is because I used to work in the same real estate office
Oh,
as
so
her.
she is a realtor.
She is a
Okay.
realtor herself, actually.
Okay,
So she's trying to, get a sale at the same time.
Nice.
I love renting there, but I wouldn't want to buy there. Just because it's a great place for myself, just living alone. But the next step that I'm going to take might be marriage and renting or buying with a husband, or
And I think that's a good topic. I mean, really, because people are scared to move on when they're single or they're solo, and they do want to buy a house, but it's just not right timing.
So
right there.
what I'm taking from this is people are staying single longer, therefore they're taking a longer time to buy a house. Is that
I
what
think
you're
a
saying?
lot of people are. I think there's a lot of people in their like mid to late 20s, early 30s, even mid 30s now that are still renting because they haven't found the person that maybe they're going to spend the rest of their life with, hopefully. And
You
they're
just turned into a relationship radio show.
relationship advice.
Hey, that makes sense. I mean,
I want you to buy a house. I've got the man for you.
Well,
Here
I
you
think
go.
what's going on too is a lot of these people that are single have seen their parents go through a foreclosure 8 years ago. Saw them go through a short sale, so they've seen it firsthand, and they're scared to do it as well.
that's a good point. That's what I thought.
Well,
it
not
was.
only that, but then also divorce too.
Yep.
You know what I mean? Like that's a big investment to have a family and a house and all of those things. And
Commitment.
Then it's people
My
are
thought-
afraid of commitment.
That's what it is. I think it's fear of commitment and the fear. The house is a commitment, just like marriage is a commitment.
Just so you know, Casey is single, so we'll get you digits.
Now we're going into dating. I love it. So the fear of going into foreclosure isn't necessarily the fear. The fear is it's a fear of commitment of potentially buying the home, because the rent. So they'll just say, for the flexibility, or you would say, for the flexibility, I'm just going to pay more in rent, and I'm fine with that because I don't have to be committed to buying this property, versus buying a condo where you own the condo.
Right. But I rent a condo, but I think the first thing that I would want to buy would be a house.
Right.
But I don't. My life right now just doesn't allow me the time to take care of a whole house, exterior, interior maintenance, all of that stuff. The last thing I want to do at the end of my day is go home and have to mow the lawn.
Yeah.
Like that's just not something is part of my life right now.
So if you're a landlord, it's not a bad buy to have a condo, and because you could probably rent it because you got an ease of lifestyle for the person that's living there. So you could easily rent the condo. It sounds like. And have that work out nicely for people that would stay in there and they wouldn't want to leave, instead of having a single-family home. I was always under the impression that single-family home was the best thing to rent, but you still have that maintenance issue.
Right.
Well, I think for Casey, it sounds like it might be the commitment issue, or looking
She has
at
commitment issues.
Well, or looking at future.
Sorry, guys. Sorry.
Let's hold on. About houses, okay?
But I think for a lot of new home buyers, younger, 20, 30, I think sometimes it's the fear of the process. They've heard somebody maybe had a foreclosure, or they don't know if they get pre-qualified. They're nervous about the process. They're scared to sit down with the loan officer. They don't want to hear bad news. And that's what I've found in some of my experiences, and that's the reason why people wait so long.
Do you think it's the fear of what the people are saying about how hard it is to get financing
I'm sure.
in today's market? Because it's a lot different story since 2008.
And there's a lot of things that have changed that have really opened up since that time. Now we have a lot of down payment assistance loan programs. Sometimes people I think are nervous. I don't have that 20%. I'm not going to be able to, I need to save up. But the truth is, you can buy a home as little as, for $1,000 with down payment assistance. You can buy a home with 0% down if you're a veteran. You can buy 0% down if you're choosing to live in a rural area.
Right.
So, if you wanted to go a more traditional route, it's only 3.5% down. The other thing is credit. Really, sometimes people are just nervous that their credit score isn't good enough. When you sit down with a qualified loan officer, they can help guide you. If it's not good enough, they can tell you what you need to do to be ready to buy a home. So those are my thoughts.
Those are great points. Great points. Folks, you're listening to AM 1280 The Patriot, every Sunday morning, 10 a.m., the Stockwell Roueche Show. Jason Stockwell, Josh Roueche. We have our guest, Lisa Swanson. We just got done with a great talk about the cultural shift and why Casey still rents.
And she's single.
And her phone number is...
Actually, it's the website. You can reach any one of us at talktwincitiesrealestate.com. And
you can text, too, if you want to text. You can text 763-200-1101. And again, that's 763-200-1101.
Or talktwincitiesrealestate.com if you're online. So talking about next is what I wanted to think we should go into would be the investment standpoint of rental property. Stock market has been crazy hot lately. A lot of people have been going into that over the last years. It's still, I don't know where it's at today. I don't follow it personally. I'm more of a real estate guy, but it's been hot. People are going into it, and they maybe got burned in real estate. They lost everything. They got foreclosed. They had a rental, or they were forced to do a rental because they were upside down on their property. What can we do, or what programs or what options do they have other than saying, hey, I have $200,000 in the bank, I want to buy one house? Mm-hmm. What's the best way for them to leverage their money to be able to get a real estate asset as a rental property and acquire that property instead of just saying, I'm going to sit back and let a stockbroker take it and just put it in the market? Lisa, what's the best way on that, or what's some options for them besides just having cash?
Yeah, well, there's a lot, and sometimes I like to really get creative depending on what what the investor's situation is. But I think one of the simplest ways is to buy, especially for a first-time home buyer, to buy a duplex.
Oh, yes.
You can buy a duplex, and basically the renter in the duplex or triplex pretty much can pay your mortgage for you. Yep. When you decide to upgrade down the road, then you have 2 units to rent out, and now it's a profitable rental option.
Well, that is something I didn't even think of, Lisa. That is brilliant. That is a first.
Well, I don't know if
you become a homeowner and a homeowner and a landlord all in one step.
Yeah,
and you're covered because the rents.
How we look at the inventory that's in the marketplace.
It's kind of like having a roommate and paying your mortgage. You have 3 roommates in a house.
Yes.
Same thing. Now you have your privacy. It's your first. It's a great.
And you own
step.
it, and you have the advantages of ownership. Plus, you have a renter paying for part or all of your expenses, depending upon how your situation is with the mortgage. Mm-hmm. That's a wonderful point for you to consider if you are a buyer, a first-time buyer, and you are willing to look at real estate as an investment as well. There are properties that you could get that will fit the needs of both that. They'll fulfill your investment part and also your lifestyle part.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Anything else?
Oh, yeah. Well, there's a ton here. I mean, one thing that's kind of neat for folks that are upgrading. So they currently own a home, starter home, maybe they purchased it 5 years ago. Now they want to buy something new. But oftentimes it can be challenging to qualify someone for 2 mortgage payments, right? They don't want to sell the house yet, but maybe they want to retain it as a rental, as a first-time home. So there's new programs now where if one would have to get an appraisal of that existing property, but the potential income that they would receive can be used to help qualify for that next upgrade home. We're actually doing quite a few of those loans right now. It takes a couple more steps because we need to document what that rental would be, and we take a 75% of that average and that type of thing. But that's a really nice option, too, for someone who's looking to upgrade but nervous about qualifying. They don't want to sell. They want to keep the property, but they don't think they'll be able to afford that.
I didn't know this at all either. I'm so glad you're on today. So if you own a home and you do not have it rented and you want to upgrade to a new home, you can actually put in that you plan to rent your current home, and this is what you plan on getting for rent, or what you get an appraisal kind of deal of what that would be, and then they can actually use that towards the qualifying of a new home.
Yes,
let's talk about that.
There are steps, though. Okay, Okay,
That
because
is-
I do want to
yes.
add some details to it.
Yes.
It's not that simple.
It's
Well, I
not-
know,
right.
but I just want to give a simple rundown of it because I did not think that was possible at all. So I'm amazed.
Yeah,
at
I've
some
got
of the
questions
products
for you
that
on
are
that too.
available.
Okay.
That's perked me up a little bit too.
So
Maybe a little.
valuable information for you if you are looking to buy rental property, own rental property, or a renter looking to buy yourself. You're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show every Sunday, 10 a.m. here on AM 1280 The Patriot. And we have our guest, Lisa Swanson, with Envoy Mortgage on. And we're talking about maximizing rents and profitability and also buying rental properties. When we come back, we'll have more great stories and some uplifting information for you. See you soon. Welcome back to the Stockwell Roueche Show with Jason Stockwell and Josh Roueche. We have Lisa Swanson with Envoy Mortgage on the line, and we just finished up on the last session, last topic about the rental, the ability to buy a rental if you currently own a home.
Nope,
and-
other way around. You currently own a home. You're going to make that into a rental and
Right.
upgrade
Okay, there you go. Yes.
to a new home. Yep.
So you're going to upgrade to a new home. You currently own a home, and you can buy that home based on that home. It doesn't have to be, someone else doesn't have to be in it. You can still use it to buy. Now, obviously, there's a lot of rules for this, or I shouldn't say a lot, but it's not as easy as just saying, hey, I own a home and I want to buy a $450,000
Right.
house. There's rules you have to follow. There's stipulations to it. If
Which
you-
I help you through. It's not, you don't have to research them on your own. We just have to have a conversation. and
Exactly.
qualify. Yep.
And if you're interested in this at all, if you have any questions regarding this, please contact Lisa directly. She's great. She's easy to get a hold of. You can text the word rental to 612-990-2271. That's 612-990-2271. Text the word rental that goes to Lisa Swanson with Envoy Mortgage about the ability to upgrade a home while you still live in the current home, but you're planning on renting it. Anything else on that one?
I know you wanted to go
blew
over
my
some
mind
other-
on that. I was
right.
impressed with that. So
Oh, good. I like it when you use the word brilliant. That's cool too. I just feel makes me
brilliant.
feel
Like the
welcome.
million-dollar listing guys out in California.
I love how Jason's drinking my pop today in this
Yeah,
video.
that was
Isn't
weird.
awesome?
All of a sudden, just
took it and
Need
ran
a little
with it.
caffeine.
well, back to financing rental properties. I mean, the other option is one can always pay cash for a property, and that's those are great buyers
Those
too.
are
if you
great
got-
people to know.
Yeah, for sure. And if you have a lot of cash and you want to buy some rentals, feel free to text Stockwell or Josh. Really.
Yeah, we're always still open to
Stockwell or
talking.
Josh. We'll take those.
Actually, you might want to contact Twin Cities, TwinCitiesRealEstate.com because Casey might want to talk to you as well.
Yeah, and you know what? We should put on a little single thing for her too.
Yeah, if you have a lot of cash and you want to buy a house, visit
and you're single.
TalkTwinCitiesRealEstate.com. Or Josh, what's that phone number?
It's 763-200-1101. And again, that if you want to get a hold of Casey for singles
We're not
dating.
switching. It's not
Or if you want to buy real estate.
or buy
Yeah,
real
we gotta
estate.
buy real
Yeah,
estate.
and have a ton of cash. Perfect. Well, and then the other option is if you do own an existing property and you're going to live in that property, you want to keep that as a primary residence, but you want to dabble in the rental market. If you have a nice equity position, there's nothing that says, I mean, you certainly can refinance and take some cash out of that primary residence. You're going to get some nice tax benefits. I mean, if you don't have a mortgage, you're going to get I don't know why I keep saying that. That's kind of weird. but
That's
you're,
good.
you're going to get, was that
Yeah,
maybe?
that's better.
Okay. Well, you will have the ability. Well, now I don't even know.
Well, here's what I think.
Here's where we can cut.
If you have equity in your home, you can use that equity to help buy the property. I just was looking at DS News. I subscribed to their daily news, and what they said today was that the second mortgage HELOC or line of credits
Yep.
are up. I don't have the statistic in front of me, but it's the highest it's been in a long time. It's up like 21%. There's a lot of equity being gained or actually recouped from the equity loss that we had. So
Right.
people are able to tap into that equity. Now, you want to have a financial plan or a financial strategy. You want to be contacting a realtor for sure, a financial planner, and also a mortgage person, because we do not want to go on here and recommend, yes, go and tap into your equity.
Right,
And, that's
Good
your
point,
safety
but-
net. So, but it is an option. And it also, as long as it's done correctly, if you're buying another property that's an asset that you can make profit on and rent out, that might be one way to do it if you don't have the cash available. But you can also get a mortgage, obviously, on a large portion of it, right?
It's always good to have a game plan going into it, too. Make sure that you're reaching out to somebody that knows the market, knows these loan products, and knows what it is that you're looking for, and have a game plan. Call Lisa, call a mortgage person, and just go over the game plan on what you're trying to do, and let them help you walk you through that.
And don't take too big of a step. I remember, when I started buying rental properties in 2008, I wanted to buy as many as I could. I wanted to conquer the world. I wanted to be the next Warren Buffett or the next Donald Trump or whatever you want to call it. I don't know.
Take it slow.
But start with one. So what I ended up doing is started with one property, and then one property the next year, and then maybe two the next. So just enough to make sure that I wasn't getting too far in and over your head. Right. And you can also manage it. The managing of the rent, everybody's scared of managing the rental properties, but it's actually not as difficult as you would think. And there also are a lot of places that can help. Realtors or property managers. There's companies that are property managers. All kinds of ways to do that. But I would recommend, just like anything, getting to know it by doing it yourself first. Then once you're comfortable with it, then you know you can pass it off to someone else. So that's
or you can do it vice versa too. I mean, other people believe in when they're first time home buyer, they're worried about that, so they do hire somebody else to do that. So it's whatever you're comfortable with. Just make sure you have a game plan and you're talking to the right people. Because I mean, if you're not talking to the right people, you can get steered in the wrong directions. And that's, I mean, if you do have questions on that, and if you want to use some of the network that we have, just type in network, text network, and hit us up at 763-200-1101. Text the word network, 763-201 or 200-1101.
763-200-1101. We'll be able to put you in touch with a financial planner, a lender, and you can kind of get opinions from all of us. Of course, it's free. There's no obligation, no cost. You're listening to AM 1280 The Patriot, as you know, and you're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show, Sundays 10 a.m. every Sunday. Today we're talking about how to maximize profits and rents on your rental properties, how to buy rental properties, and what I think is a good point or another story that might be helpful for people is we talked about fear, commitment, issues like that. People, when they hear the word rental property, when they hear the word rental property, it's they sometimes have all these bad ideas in their head about rental property, meaning, oh, that's a nightmare. Oh, I'm going to have to take care of this. Oh, I'm going to have to do that. Oh, and it just has this like a negative relationship in their head, and they think, oh, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to get into that. So the question about if you want to do rental property and you think you want to do it and you have in the financially it makes sense, but you're afraid of the downfalls of it or some of the obstacles or work that you have to do with it. One of the things you got to think about is stepping over the fence or jumping over the fence. So is just go out and do it. Just figure out how to plan and get it and do it. So I got an email the other day from a friend who actually does hard money lending. So they are also a lender, but they do not do normal loans. They just only do hard money. But they said that they have a neighbor that came to a 4th of July block party at their house. He was not eating any of the food or enjoying any of the beverages that the other adults were. No beer, probably, no cookies, no anything like that. So he asked him a few times to enjoy a beer. Hey, have a beer. And the gentleman said, no, I do not want to do that. I'm in training. Well, he's a professional athlete. He was getting ready for the upcoming season. He told me about his training regime and his diet. It was obvious to me that he really cared about his profession and was doing everything possible to the best that he could. This is the difference you see with athletes that make it in the professional level. They're willing to do what other athletes are not so that they can do what those other athletes cannot. Being a professional real estate investor or a real estate investor is not any different. To reach the elite level, you need to put in the work and you'll be successful. Are you willing to put in the time? Because it will take time. Are you willing to hear the word no? Because you're going to hear the word no when you're putting your offers out or even from tenants. And are you focused on their success, and are you willing to do things that scare you? So
that's a great read.
Yeah. What are your thoughts on that? If people are afraid to buy a rental property,
I mean,
Well, can I cut off? I'm sorry,
yeah.
I'm going to cut you off for 1 second. I'm just going to go back to the fact, like, that just popped into my head about you talking about, the fear or the, because I quote unquote have commitment issues. But just thinking that, I think personally, I would actually rather first buy an investment property
Before you buy your...
because I've worked in real estate for
Right.
so long. I'd rather buy an investment property, manage that, than necessarily buy something for myself where I know that I might not do the maintenance that I need to, or that I have to, or mow the lawn on a
you leave
weekly
it up to
basis.
the-
But I
right.
would do it for someone who was renting from me.
So your first, so that's
Because
a great
that's
point.
the response. Because that's a responsibility,
That's a
that I
great
would
point.
need to do.
You can buy your first home can be a rental home. Lisa,
Sure.
you have loans for people that could do a rental home. If they said, I rent,
Yep.
I want to buy a home, but I ain't going to live in it. I am going to rent it out.
Absolutely. I've had people buy second homes too, same way. I mean, they rent, but they want to buy a cabin up north. Same,
Oh.
no problems with
Very
that
good
whatsoever.
point, Casey. That's a very good
Yeah.
point.
Thank you.
And that would
Good job,
take.
Case.
You're
So
a
they're
very
afraid to
good
buy for
entrepreneur.
themselves, but they will buy. They're afraid to buy for themselves, but they buy for someone else as long as someone else is paying the mortgage for them, essentially, on the rental. I like it.
Well, and then just to clarify too, with traditional financing, it's 20 or 25% down payment to buy that rental. So it's you don't have the first time home buyer programs like you would if it's a primary residence.
Right.
But if you're not doing the other options that we spoke about, it's that 20 or 25% down to purchase.
So what I'm hearing for people, for you buying or looking to buy, money is out there. Money's available. There's hard money lending. You see people taking out second mortgages. There's money free flowing. We're back to the almost not as good, not as bad as it was in the 2006 and
Right,
when the crash
2008,
7 and 8. But we're back to money flowing, so you can get financing if you want to buy and invest in real estate. You're listening to the Stockwell Roueche Show, AM 1280 The Patriot, Sundays 10 a.m. Jason Stockwell, Josh Roueche with our special guest Lisa Swanson with Envoy Mortgage, and another guest, Casey Thrash. We'll be back talking more about rentals and how to buy rentals and the advantages of rental property. Welcome back. You're listening to AM 1280 The Patriot, the Stockwell Roueche Show, Sunday mornings 10 a.m. Jason Stockwell, Josh Roueche. If you're just joining us, we have a special guest, Lisa Swanson with Envoy Mortgage. And if you have any questions related to buying rental property, doing anything like that, please text rental to Lisa at 612-990-2271, 612-990-2271. Some great stories, some great information so far today. And one last topic or one last thing just wanted to touch base about is why buy rental properties? Why would you buy a rental property, or why would you want to buy a rental property? I think there'd be three reasons. Number one, tax advantage. Number two, flexibility, meaning anybody can do it. You don't have to be a rocket scientist or a doctor to figure it out. And number three, there's a lot of financial profitability in it.
Investment, right?
Investment profitability. When a buddy of mine was down in Florida, he lives down in Florida, he said, if you go down to the coast and look at the yachts, and you look at them, and he says, a lot of those yacht owners own trailer parks or land, which is essentially rental property. They're renting
Well, aren't
the
they
land.
living on the yachts out there year round?
Yeah. And that's the deal. They are the ones who have it allows freedom and also tax advantages. So those are some of the
only
main,
do that in
things.
Minnesota, right?
Yeah.
Well, it is income without a 9-to-5 job, or you don't have to adhere to a certain schedule. It can be very flexible for
And from a mortgage
life.
standpoint, someone else is paying the mortgage for you,
Yep.
and you get to write that off. You, the owner, as that own the rental property, the interest or the expenses as and you get to depreciate the asset as well. Those are all tax things, but that's another thing. For a tax
that would
advisor.
be tax
You
advisor
definitely
would
want
be
to
the
tax
one.
that
I mean,
tax,
for
your
primary
CPA.
residents, absolutely, and with rentals, it gets a little more tricky. So that would be a good for our network CPA. We can refer you to folks there, but
Yep. Cool.
And
So
if you look at the numbers too, let's go back to the monthly indicators too. I mean, what kind of return are you getting on a property versus what you would get on the open stock market? And you're looking at an 8% increase in property values right now. So that's something to consider as well. When you're looking at the market, what's going on at Wall Street versus what you can get as far as an investment on a property right now, it's it's almost a better investment to invest in
It could
property
be
right
very
now.
good. Yes,
Right.
there's a lot of advantages. Lisa,
Yes.
I'm opening up DS News right now.
Okay.
Obama commends financial regulators. President Barack Obama commended financial regulators for progress made since the Dodd-Frank Act became law in 2010. Thoughts, opinions,
On
dislikes,
Dodd-Frank.
likes. What do you think? Are these things working? Are things happening? Is it making it better for the end consumer when they're getting a mortgage?
Oh, I'm so
Be
torn.
honest.
I'm so torn. Regulation is great, and I think in some cases it's necessary, and I think some of the regulation has been positive. But there are a lot of parts about the regulation that makes our jobs way more challenging. Which is the intention was to help consumers, give them waiting periods to decide after receiving a good faith estimate, having a minimum of a 7-day. Back in the day, we could close a loan in a couple of days if the client was, provided us documentation quickly. Now we have to wait a minimum of 7 days because we have a so-called waiting period for the client.
So these things sound like they're making it a pain in the butt for you as loan officers. However, does it negatively affect the consumer at all? Is there any disadvantage to the consumer with all these things? Because Obama thinks it's great, everybody thinks it's great, and they think it's safer for the consumer. But are there any instances or examples where this may not be? There may be too much regulation, and it might actually hurt the consumer or their consumers' choices.
I think it does too. You're in competition out there when you're shopping for a house, and when you got a lot of these investors out there are paying cash, and then when you got to go get them, and you as a buyer have to go get pre-approved because you're not set up with a cash offer, you're getting beat out a lot by these investors that are paying cash on these properties.
Well, because of those compliance, it takes more staff because we have to be, we have to hire more people.
But again, that's
manage
you. I'm talking about the consumer. How does this affect you, me? How does it affect me if I'm going out to buy a property with my clients?
Let's just use an example. So we have these waiting periods, and let's say for one reason or another, something changes that has to do with the buyer, has to do something with the client.
Give us a real story. I mean, without using names, but what could change? Someone bought a car, or they got a job decrease or pay decrease, or what's an example? Is that an example?
Yeah, potentially. Like something happened where I had an opportunity, let's say, to give someone a better interest rate, or we were able to float down an interest rate, but it happened to be a day before closing. Mm-hmm. Now, some of the rules in each company is going to be a little bit different, but at one point there was a 3-day waiting rule that even if your rate went down in your favor, there's still a 3-day waiting period for that. Now, how is that protecting the client? How is that protecting the consumer?
So they may be able to get a better rate, but this is causing them to maybe miss out on
Right, or there might
opportunity.
be some type of opportunity to do a lender credit, or there might be something to lower the closing costs, but because
of that wait time and you're at closing date, you might have to push that closing date to help.
Right,
with your
or
client.
we basically say, client, do you want to close on time? Realtor, do you want to close on time? Or do you want the lower rate? And now we have to involve all these parties in postponing.
Right.
So what's sometimes designed to protect the clients is good, a lot of it, but sometimes it's not.
It affects
good.
just more than the client. It affects the seller. It affects affects everybody in the
Well,
transaction.
and it seems like things have changed a lot from the difference between maybe 10 years ago when people were purchasing houses and they didn't close for 2 to 3 months. And you had all that extra time, and now it's standard for a 30 to 45 day close period.
Yep.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's because of all that paperwork. It's because of all the waiting periods, and we can't do certain parts of the transaction until one part is complete or one waiting period has been completed, which ultimately can slow down the process. Now, traditionally, loans close in 30 to 45 days. At Envoy, we do have a little bit, I think, better system. It's a little more streamlined. We're a correspondent lender. So, I mean, I've been able to close loans as quick as 2 weeks before, but that's because, we have the experience with these new rules and, we've kind of gone through the ups and downs.
Yeah, the new rules. And some of the complaints I get and we get from consumers when they're buying a home or when you're buying a home is
documentation.
Yes, they're saying, why does this person need all this information? Now, is that attributed to these regulations, Lisa? Do they need more documentation, more information because they have great credit, they have a job, they have all these things, but yet they're complaining because the loan officers are asking them for so much stuff. Yep. Why do I need to give you this? Why do we need to give you that? Well,
part of it has to do with a lot of the rules that have changed. There's a Patriot Act, for instance. There's so oftentimes a big complaint or an issue I feel borrowers have is anytime we're looking at an asset statement, if there's a deposit that is not payroll, we have to source and document it. So if there's a buyer that uses a lot of cash, transfers money back from one account to the other account,
You need a paper trail.
yeah, we need a paper trail, because whether it was fraud in the past or whether it was they're concerned that they're getting money gifted and they're not telling us about it. I mean, these certain rules that, again, are coming in to protect, I don't know if it's the lender, the consumer, it's making that documentation piece a lot more tedious. And
I think
challenging.
Yeah, I think that's one of the biggest things I'm seeing out there too, is for that move up buyer that purchased a house prior to the market crash in 2000, 2001, 2002 and wants to move up.
Yep.
They're always complaining on now when they're moving that move up. Like, I've never been asked this type of information before. I never had to do this the first time.
Right,
I
I have perfect credit.
I have perfect credit.
equity.
Why are they asking for this? I never had to do that before.
Well, and it's a lot of it's fraud in the past or whatever prompted these new rules to take place. But it's just part of the process now, and that's why it's so
we're
important.
dealing with it, living with it. People, you can still buy. It just might be a little more stringent, a little more steps in the way, a little more hassle than what you've had in the past.
And that's why it's more important than ever to work with an experienced loan officer.
Manage those expectations and manage that and have that communication with the client, the buyer, and manage those expectations, set those up front through the process, and everything should turn out pretty good.
Yeah, it's more important. All of that stuff is very important. After the downturn, it's so important to be working with people that have been in the business, lasted through the downturn. Lisa's been 12 years in the business and still kicking. So you're listening to AM 1280 The Patriot, the Stockwell Roueche Show. Jason Stockwell, Josh Roueche. We've been talking about how to maximize rents profitability, buy rental property. Upcoming shows will be how to flip a house and make $40,000. Do the elections really affect you? And another topic I really want to get into is the immigrants and immigration and the ability, Teddy Bridgewater, the immigrants and immigration and the ability for them to buy with the emerging market and how they're now being able to get Social Security numbers and become legal citizens with the what's the name of the act that passed?
Dodd-Frank?
No, the immigrant one where they can become United States citizens. Dream Act. So we'll talk about more exciting stuff later on. Be safe and love yourself and love others.
Go
Later.
Vikings.
Yay.